The day that I heard about Magic, it just sort of changed my love for basketball. It shook me up. You get that feeling, probably the same type of feeling I had when my father died. You know, I, sort of, I don't know. I wanted to hear it from him. Probably didn't believe it.
This feeling, David, is when a friend supports you. And this young man came and supported me. He came to my side and supported me, and I'll never forget that. And that's the type of man Larry.
How good was Magic Johnson? That's the question Larry Bird was forced to answer over and over again throughout his career. And for years, his answer was simple. He wanted to destroy him, not just beat him, destroy him. Every single morning, Bird would grab the newspaper and flip straight to the West Coast box scores. If Magic had 20 assists, Bird knew he had to get 21. If Magic had a triple-double, Bird felt like he'd lost the day, even if the Celtics had won their game. This wasn't just competition. This was obsession. This was hate. Pure, frozen, unfiltered hatred that defined an entire decade of basketball. But what happened next, what Bird eventually said about Magic, would prove that sometimes the people we fight hardest against become the ones we love the most. If you're enjoying this story, hit the hype feature and hype up this video so more NBA fans can find it. To understand why Bird's words about Magic mattered so much, you need to understand just how broken the NBA was when they arrived. The late 1970s were a disaster for professional basketball. The league was drowning in an identity crisis. Drug scandals were everywhere. The games felt selfish and disjointed, nothing like the disciplined team play people loved watching in college. Things got so bad that the NBA Finals were broadcast on tape delay, late at night, after the local news. The biggest games in basketball were treated like filler programming. The league was staring into an abyss, and most people thought it would never climb back out. Then two players showed up who would change everything. They were opposites in every possible way: geography, race, personality, playing style, everything. Earvin Magic Johnson was the smiling showman from Lansing, Michigan, who played basketball like it was a party. Larry Joe Bird was the quiet, intense worker from French Lick, Indiana. Bird didn't see basketball as entertainment. He saw it as war, a ruthless, calculated exercise in dominance. These two men became the binary stars of the basketball universe, and their gravity would pull millions of fans back into the sport. Number 5. The veteran meets the rookie. Kareem and Magic's rocky start. When Magic Johnson was drafted first overall by the Los Angeles Lakers in 1979, he walked into a team led by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. By that point, Kareem was already a living legend, a 6-time MVP, the master of the skyhook, the most unstoppable shot the game had ever seen. But Kareem was complicated. He was an introvert who read history books in the locker room and didn't trust reporters. To him, basketball wasn't about putting on a show. It was about excellence. Then Magic crashed into his world like a tornado. He high-fived teammates after routine plays. He brought a boombox into the locker room. He celebrated everything. Kareem found all of it exhausting. The culture clash was immediate. The defining moment came in the very first game of the 1979-80 season against the San Diego Clippers. The Lakers won on a buzzer-beating skyhook by Kareem. As the ball dropped through the net, Magic, overwhelmed with the thrill of his first NBA victory, sprinted toward the stoic captain. He leaped into Kareem's arms, hugging him and screaming in celebration. Kareem, startled and clearly uncomfortable, pulled himself away. Later, in the locker room, he offered a piece of advice that became legendary. "Don't do that," Kareem said. "We have 81 more of these to play." It was ice cold. But despite the rocky personal start, the basketball chemistry was instant. Magic was a 6'9" point guard, an anomaly in a league where ball handlers were usually barely 6 feet tall. His height let him see over defenses, and his unselfishness meant the ball was always moving. For Kareem, who'd spent years battling double teams, Magic was a revelation. Magic figured out early that his most important job was keeping the captain happy. He fed Kareem the ball in his favorite spots. He deferred to his authority. Slowly, the ice started to melt. Magic later said, "Cap didn't like me at first. I was too loud, too happy. But once we started winning, he saw that my heart was in the right place." The real turning point came during the 1980 NBA Finals against the Philadelphia 76ers. The Lakers held a 3-2 series lead heading into Game 6, but disaster struck when Kareem suffered a severe ankle sprain. Despite the injury, he came back to score 40 points and secure the win, but he was ruled out for Game 6 in Philadelphia. Everyone expected them to lose. Magic Johnson refused to accept that script. On the flight to Philadelphia, the 20-year-old rookie sat in Kareem's usual seat in the front row of the plane. When his teammates boarded, looking defeated, Magic turned to them with his trademark smile and announced, "Never fear, EJ is here." What happened next is considered one of the greatest individual performances in NBA Finals history. Starting at center in place of Kareem, Magic played every single position on the floor. He controlled the tempo. He rebounded like a power forward. He passed like a point guard. He scored like a center. He finished with 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. The Lakers won the championship. Kareem, watching from his home, saw more than just a talented teammate. He saw a warrior. Years later, Kareem reflected on their relationship with warmth that would have shocked anyone watching in 1979. He said, "Magic was the perfect teammate. He was the only guy who could look at the same play I was looking at and see the same thing I saw." For a cerebral player like Kareem, a man who saw the geometry of the court like a chess grandmaster, that was the ultimate compliment. The integration of Magic and Kareem saved the Lakers. But while Magic was winning hearts in Los Angeles, a blonde forward in Boston was preparing for war. Number 4. The Cold War begins. Bird versus Magic. If the relationship between Magic and Kareem was a story of ice slowly melting, the relationship between Magic Johnson and Larry Bird was a frozen wasteland. For the first half of the 1980s, they refused to even speak to each other. No handshakes before games. No pleasantries in the offseason. They were locked in the Cold War of the NBA. The rivalry was total, East versus West. The gritty, industrial, freezing winters of Boston against the sun-soaked glamour of Los Angeles. Bird, the white worker from Indiana, became a symbol for white, working-class America. Magic, the black superstar with the million-dollar smile, represented urban cool. The Celtics played fundamentals. Passing, cutting, boxing out. The Lakers played showtime. Fast breaks, no-look passes, high-flying dunks. They weren't just opponents. They were the measuring stick by which each other defined their entire existence. Bird later admitted, "I didn't just want to beat Magic, I wanted to destroy him. Every morning I'd check the West Coast box scores. If he had 20 assists, I had to get 21. He wasn't competing against the Philadelphia 76ers or the Milwaukee Bucks. He was competing against a ghost on the West Coast." Magic felt the same way. He said, "I hated him. I didn't want to know him. I didn't want to like him. He was the only person that kept me up at night." Magic was the darling of the media, the face of the league, but Bird was the ghost haunting his success. Bird was the only player Magic feared, not physically but existentially. He feared that Bird might actually be better. The Cold War turned hot in June 1984. For the first time since their college championship game, Bird and Magic met in the finals. The Lakers, superior in talent and speed, dominated early. They crushed the Celtics in Game 1 and led late in Game 2. But Magic made a critical mistake, dribbling out the clock and failing to get a shot off, allowing Boston to steal the win. That was the beginning of the tragic Johnson narrative. The series shifted in Game 4, with the Lakers threatening to run away with the title. Celtics forward Kevin McHale clotheslined Lakers forward Kurt Rambis on a fast break. It was a violent foul that would result in a suspension today. In 1984, it was a message. The Celtics dragged the Lakers into a street fight. The Celtics won the series in 7 games. For Magic, it was the lowest point of his career. He'd faltered in crunch time. Bird was named Finals MVP. He'd destroyed Magic exactly as he'd promised. Magic spent the entire summer in depression, training obsessively, using Bird's image as fuel. Bird savored the victory but never relaxed. He knew the Lakers would be back. Number 3. Mental warfare. Bird's legendary trash talk. While Magic Johnson disarmed opponents with smiles, Larry Bird used a different weapon. Brutal, factual trash talk. Bird is considered one of the greatest trash talkers in sports history, but his style was unique. He didn't just brag or insult you. He told you exactly what he was about to do, and then he did it. This method was devastating because it stripped defenders of any power. Bird would tell defenders, "I'm going to go right over there, shoot a jumper in your face, and then tell you to go home." He treated opponents not as obstacles, but as props in his own highlight reel. He'd ask opposing coaches, "Who's guarding me tonight?" When they pointed to a player, Bird would laugh and say, "He's too small." One of the most legendary moments involved Chuck Person of the Indiana Pacers. Person, a confident rookie nicknamed the Rifleman, had publicly stated he was going bird hunting before a Christmas Day game. Bird decided to deliver a holiday message that would echo through NBA history. During the game, Bird found himself with the ball on the wing, directly in front of the Pacers bench where Person was sitting. Bird launched a three-pointer. Immediately after releasing the ball while it was still in the air, Bird turned his back to the hoop, looked directly at Person, and said, "Merry Christmas." The ball swished through the net. To turn away from a shot before it lands requires absolute confidence. It silenced the Rifleman and reinforced the league's hierarchy. You don't hunt the bird hunts you. Bird's career is filled with similar moments. In 1986, bored with the level of competition, Bird decided to play a game against Portland, using mostly his left hand. He was right-handed. He told everyone beforehand. He then scored 47 points, with 20 coming from left-handed shots, including the game winner. At the inaugural three-point contest, Bird walked into the locker room, looked at the other competitors, and asked, "Who's playing for second?" He won without taking off his warm-up jacket, raising his finger in victory before the final ball even went in. In a tied game against Seattle with seconds left, Bird told defender Xavier McDaniel, I'm going to get the ball right here and I'm going to shoot it in your face. Bird ran to the spot, caught the ball, waited for McDaniel to recover, and hit the game winner. As he walked off, he told McDaniel, "I didn't mean to leave 2 seconds on the clock." Bird's trash talk forced Magic Johnson to chase perfection because he knew Bird wasn't just playing a game. Bird was dismantling the opposition's will to compete. Number 2, the turning point. A lunch that ended the war. For the first half of the decade, the hatred between Bird and Magic was real, but the corporate machinery of the NBA began to see the value in marketing them together. They were the yin and yang of basketball, and their combined pull was bringing in millions of viewers. In 1986, Converse arranged a commercial shoot for their weapons sneaker line. The concept was simple but powerful. Magic Johnson would travel to French Lick, Indiana, to challenge Larry Bird on his home turf. It was a visual representation of the cultural clash they embodied. The shoot was at the actual Bird family home. Magic, used to Hollywood productions, was in the middle of nowhere. He expected to do his lines, stay in his trailer, and leave quickly. He had no interest in spending time with the enemy. As the crew broke for lunch, Magic headed for his trailer. Larry Bird stopped him. "Magic, my mom made lunch," he said. "You can't go to the trailer." This moment changed NBA history. Magic entered the house to find Georgia Bird, Larry's mother. Georgia walked straight up to the Lakers star and hugged him. She hit Larry on the arm and asked, "Did you tell him yet?" When Larry said no, she turned to Magic and said, "Magic, you're my favorite basketball player." The ice shattered. Magic responded, "Thank you, Mama Bird." Over a lunch of fried chicken, the two rivals sat at a small kitchen table and realized they were mirror images. Both were poor kids from the Midwest. Both were fiercely close to their mothers. Both were obsessed with winning. Both felt misunderstood by media narratives. The Hollywood versus Hick story was a media creation. The reality was two men who understood each other better than anyone else on Earth. By the end of the shoot, they were laughing. They exchanged phone numbers, a revolutionary act for two rivals. The Cold War was officially over, replaced by a deep, private brotherhood. Number 1, the phone call, when the rivalry became love. The strength of their new bond was tested in the most tragic way 5 years later. On November 7th, 1991, Magic Johnson shocked the world by announcing he had contracted HIV and would retire from the NBA immediately. At that time, HIV and AIDS were widely misunderstood and deeply stigmatized. Many viewed it as a death sentence. The announcement sent shockwaves across the globe. But before Magic faced the cameras, he had to make painful phone calls to the people who mattered most. One of the very first calls was to French Lick, Indiana. Magic said, "Larry was one of the first people I called, because I knew if anyone understood my heart, it was him." When Bird received the call, the reaction was overwhelming. Reporters said Bird was visibly shaken and legitimately shell-shocked. For a man who'd built his career on hiding his emotions, his reaction revealed everything. Bird later said, "When Magic called me to tell me about his diagnosis, it was the first time I felt like the game didn't matter anymore. My friend was in trouble." Bird admitted that hearing the news was the only time in his entire career that he stepped onto a basketball court and didn't want to play. In a moment of extreme vulnerability, Bird compared the feeling to the day his father committed suicide in 1975, a trauma Bird had refused to discuss publicly for his entire life. To compare losing Magic's career to the death of his father showed the depth of Bird's love. The rivalry was gone. All that remained was the fear of losing a brother. Bird, whose back was already failing, played one more painful season. He did it largely for one reason: to participate in the 1992 Barcelona Olympics as part of the Dream Team, a final victory lap to honor Magic Johnson. The image of the two of them on the podium, gold medals around their necks, marked the emotional end of the era they'd built together. The legacy they left behind is impossible to overstate. In 1980, the NBA's revenue was tiny. By the time Bird and Magic retired, the NBA was a global powerhouse, broadcasting to over 100 countries. They transformed basketball from a niche sport into a narrative engine. They proved the league could be driven by star power and personal stories. They bridged the racial divide in the fan base. They paved the road that Michael Jordan would later drive down. But the true legacy isn't found in revenue charts or record books. It's found in the evolution of their humanity. They taught the world that fierce competition doesn't block deep love and respect. They showed it's possible to try to destroy someone on the court while holding them in your heart off it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar witnessed the entire arc, from the rookie Magic hugging him in '79 to the retired Magic and Bird joking as brothers in the Hall of Fame. Kareem understood what they'd created was rare. He said, "People talk about the rivalry, but they forget the brotherhood. Larry and Irvin made all of us better. They made the world watch." The story of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson is the origin story of the modern NBA. It begins with friction, it moves through fire, it pivots on simple human connection, and it ends with shared tragedy that revealed the unbreakable strength of their bond. They started as perfect enemies, black versus white, west versus east, smiles versus scowls. They ended as perfect complements. Two men who, in trying to destroy each other, built the greatest stage in the history of the sport. As Bird said at Magic's retirement ceremony, his voice breaking with emotion, "Magic, for me, there will never be another you." The feeling was mutual. In the end, they realized they weren't two separate stars. They were a binary system. Neither could shine as brightly without the gravity of the other. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe for more NBA history, and drop a comment with your favorite Bird or Magic moment. Thanks for watching.